just another story she tells. Have you ever felt you're missing the dream? Have you ever wished your life was like the movie on the screen, filled with heartbreaks and fights through Hollywood nights, through Hollywood nights, through Hollywood nights. You always looked after me, brother, when we were children. You always had my back. You took all the blame when our father caught us doing things that drove him mad. Through the years I could lean on you when I messed up. I'd call you in the night, but I broke too many promises and we split up. Though I still need ya, you gotta save me now. I'm slipping so far down, it's only you I trust to set me free from this. I don't know how I got into this awful spot. I don't know where it ends, so I could use your helping hand tonight. I wanna say that I'm sorry, I got sidetracked and I left you in the cold. I've seen your side of the story, I felt the drawback. My mistake took its toll. Finally, I have realized I was dead wrong. I wasn't thinking straight. No more lies, and from here on out I'll be better, 'cause I still need ya. You gotta save me now. I'm slipping so far down, it's only you I trust to set me free from this. I don't know how I got into this awful spot. I don't know where it ends, so I could use your helping hand tonight. I could use your helping hand tonight. I could use your helping hand tonight.
From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart of a villain, it's the heart of a villain. From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart of a villain, it's the heart of a villain. Hey yo, heart of a villain beats hard in the centrifuge. Bearded BP, 100 interviews. All it takes is 2 mics and 1 line. This is Bearded Villains podcast worldwide. Driving cross countries, getting ball tires. Fam across ponds, always inspired. Chapters connect, and then it's on fire. Check your phone, 'cause BV is like a live wire. They said that we couldn't do it and that another could. Never underestimate the power of brotherhood. Every bro, every chapter, every caption. Heart of a villain, bro. Lights, camera, action, 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 action. Let's go. From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart of a villain, it's the heart of a villain. From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart of a villain, it's the heart of a villain. From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart of a villain, it's the heart of a villain. From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another, I say the same thing every single night, and maybe I need to get my annoying game show voice going on, too, I don't know. Hey, welcome, everybody, to another Thursday night edition of The Heart of a Villain, the podcast and live stream devoted to the bearded villains' worldwide brotherhood and the lives they're changing all over the world. Boys and girls, children of all ages, whoever is here with us tonight, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to a great conversation tonight as we continue with last week's topic. If this is your first time here, I am BP, and my name tag thing's not working right now, so I can't throw that across the screen, so I do apologize for that. Hey, but thank you guys for being here. If you are interested in bearded men, learning about charity stuff, the bearded villains, this is your one-stop shop because we talk about it all right here at the Heart of a Villain. Now, tonight, it is June 30th, and this is episode 141. I am about a month away from celebrating 3 years. 3 years of this here podcast, way back at the end of the summer of 2019. Boy, time flies. But hey, I wouldn't have it any other way. Before I forget to say something right now, I want to apologize to everybody. Last week, as you know, if you were here live, you watching the live stream, you noticed that we had a little snafu twice where I lost internet signal. I'm not sure if what I've done and taken care of over the last week has fixed it. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Do whatever you got to do to send good juju this way. But we'll see. Hopefully the live stream stays up and running tonight. But this is episode 141. I want to thank you guys for being here. All of the responses, boy, the responses that I got over the last week from last week's episode, it really touched a nerve in a good way, in a really good way, I think. I personally learned a lot in gathering the information about the show for last week, the topic of BV Burnout. And I heard some really great responses from people all over the world. And the one thing that it did show me is that no matter how big the world of BV is, we have so many commonalities in the different things that we experience within our chapters. And to hear somebody all the way literally across the world on the other side of the world talking about they experienced the exact same things that we're hearing about guys here in the United States talking about the same things, it says something. And it really, I'm so grateful that our brother, Mr. Hayes, he reached out, man, and he came up with this great idea, and it's become a 2-episode topic that I'm sure we're going to revisit in the coming months, maybe a year down the road, just to see if things have changed at all for some people. But it's such a great topic idea, so I want to give another shout out and thanks to him for asking me if I've ever covered this topic as an idea, because boy, it was much needed, I think. And a lot of guys, not only a lot of you guys out there, the contributors to this show, are learning that you're not alone, right? You guys are learning that you are not alone in your feelings, in your disappointments sometimes. You're not alone in feeling the way you feel about whatever it is that's caused burnout for you. One of the things that we noticed, that I noticed very quickly, and that hopefully you guys also experienced in listening to the show or watching the show or watching 3 parts of the show live, if you went back and did that, is that we're not alone. You guys are experiencing similar things out there. And it's through these conversations that we're going to be able to hopefully change things and make things better for everybody. So we're going to dive right in here in just a couple minutes. I want to say hi real quick to everybody that's here live, as I always try to do, just to take a couple minutes out. Hopefully I don't forget anybody as I scroll through these names. Everybody that's here live, commenting in the comment section before the show, starting up conversations early on. I love to see it. Mr. Robaba, he's listed as Rob on the Road. I love that. The touchstone man of this topic conversation right there. Rob, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you didn't know, it's about 1 a.m. over there for him right now. But he tunes in. I love it. Frankenbeans is here with us as well. Silky Smooth, how you doing, Seth? Ed Deering from my chapter also is hanging out with us again tonight. Youngsta, how you doing, buddy? I look forward to being able to see you one of these days again and hanging out. We had, one of the great things I love about these multi-chapter events is we get to hang out with guys from different parts of the world, different parts of the country, and I have sat down and with Mr. Youngsta and had some really good conversation time, learning about stuff and learning about life. Good stuff. Derek, how you doing? Good to see you here. Buddy's hanging out with us as well. Donnie's here with us as well as the Bearded AF Vet. Bearded AF Vet. Love it. Mr. Mulaney is here with us as well as Mars is here with us. Mr. Andy Trent, how you doing, sir? How you doing? Good to see you here. The Rev is here as well, hanging out with us on a Thursday night. Good to see you. Hey, Mark Davis back with us again. Good to see you, Mark. Bearded Ambitions sticking with us for the night. Mr. Bearded Irishman, how you doing, buddy? Hopefully you're staying safe out there on the road, not running into anything, running over anything. Staying calm on the road. I know it's not always easy to do. Mr. Forge, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you here. Let's see if we got anybody else that I've missed so far. Lots of people wanted. Mr. One Feather, how you doing, Wayne? Good to see you here. Good to see you. As I scroll through, Bam Bam ENC is here with us as well. Boy, lots of people commenting. I love to see it. Well, guys, thanks so much for being here. As you know, we're gonna roll right into in just a second. Burnout page 2, chapter 2 as we go. Actually, we covered kind of chapters 1 through 5, I think, really last week. But real quick, just because it's what we normally do, and I want to make sure I stay on topic with everything, I want to get in real quick to all of the chapter merch that's still out there for you guys to do, because I want our chapters to have just an extra little ad for whatever it is they're trying to raise money for through the different merch things. So these are the merch things that I have on my list right now. If I'm missing you, I do apologize for that, but let's get into what I've got so far. All right. Okay, so chapter merch. The first thing that I've got on my list right now is the edition. We've had it for a couple weeks now. I'm not sure how much longer this is live. Richmond Villains, shirts, and more shirts. That's how I listed it. They have their logo, their new logo for their new chapter in just about every imaginable color scheme you'd want, right? They got purple, they got sand or tan, maroon, Irish green, royal blue, red, and black. All these shirts ranging in price from $20 to $25, depending on your size. Available at bvrichmond.bigcartel.com. Next up, we have the Rocket City patch. It's a 2-week pre-order, so I think this might be the last week. I think, if my calendar was correct. I think it's still active. Rocket City Villains pre-order for their red, white, and blue, their stars and stripes. I'm not sure what they're exactly calling it. Patch. RocketCityBV.BigCartel.com. 2-week pre-order ends very soon. $12 for this guy. Pretty cool. 3-star villains. I think they're still selling this guy as well. The 3-star villains proceeds. It's the Warrior Heart Renee Strong patch. Heart Warrior patch for Renee. $13 to help pay for some medical bills for an awesome supporter of BV. who had a medical emergency at the SMV anniversary event earlier this year. 3starvillains.bigcartel.com is where you can go for that. $13. Next up on our board, we have the Bearded Villains Eastern Washington Pride Patch. Pride Patch. It's pre-sale for $12. It's got the buzz saw thing going on there with the blade. The saw blade looks like. Eastern Washington Beast Side Villains is what it says on the patch. Available EWBV.bigcartel.com. EWBV.bigcartel.com for $12. The Pride Patch. Also, Orlando having a Pride Patch. BV Orlando's Pride Patch is $10. Available at orlandovillains.org. orlandovillains.org. Also up, the 3 chapters coming together in the state of Tennessee. We got Tennessee, Smoky Mountain, and Chattanooga. So the 3 chapters there in the state of Tennessee coming together with a squamous cell carcinoma awareness patch. Squamous cell carcinoma awareness patch. $12, 3 chapters coming together. This is Estate United. This is being sold through the Smoky Mountain page. So Smoky, mtnvillains.bigcartel.com is where you can grab one of those. Great stuff, great stuff. Love it when chapters come together for things, guys. All right. Hey, we're going to mention this, but 1 week from today, I'll actually be up in Canada, yo. I'll be way up in Canada for Beards for Bucko next weekend. And we're going to talk about it with next week's episode. Beards for Bucko. They've got 3 shirts available representing the 3 chapters that are your hosts for Beards for Bucko up in Fort Erie. And you've got the Beards for Bucko Camp shirt from Toronto, from Lakeshore, and from OSW. 3 different shirts representing 3 different chapters. Get them all. What the heck? Don't show favoritism. Just get them all. $30 to $32 each. And they also have Beards for Bucko camper hat. Awesome to see. All of this is available at beardsforbucko.bigcartel.com. beardsforbucko.bigcartel.com. If you're wondering what the Bucko thing is all about, Bucko is a camp, as I understand it, and I'm sure somebody in the comment section will fix it if I'm telling it wrong. But best I've been told, it is a camp for kids who are burn victims, suffering with that stuff and dealing with everything that it is to be a burn survivor. So it's a camp for them. Awesome stuff. So beardsforbucko.bigcartel.com is where you can get all that good merch for Bucko. Good to see it. Star City Villains, their Out of the Darkness patch is available for $12. starcityvillains.bigcartel.com. starcityvillains.bigcartel.com. And then finally, this is a new one I got this week. I actually got it just after the show ended last week, I think is when it came out, within a day or two of that. The Bearded Villains Wales chapter. Those boys are doing a patch that they've got out there supporting Abigail. Abigail is a child over there in Wales who has FND, which is functional neurological disorder, and to help raise money for the family's needs and to cover costs, medical costs and whatnot. They've created this patch. It's 10 pounds, BVWC, supporting Abigail's journey with FND is what it says on the patch with an orange ribbon on it. beardedvillainswales.bigcartel.com. beardedvillainswales.bigcartel.com is where you get that. And guys, that's the merch I have so far for this week. If I missed you, please reach out and let me know so I can get you on for next week. Okay. Real quick, I have one thing that I want to talk about with chapter news, just to celebrate a chapter doing something really cool last weekend. I'm probably sure that there are other chapters that did something really cool in the last week since we met, but I didn't see. I mean, you got to reach out. You got to send me stuff, right? And in this case, this week, it's fortunate for me because, well, I was there to witness this. So, chapter news. Let's get into this. Okay, real quick. The chapter news that I have is, well, actually, sounds kind of selfish, but it's from my own chapter. And I try not to, take liberty very often and just brag about my own chapter and say thank you to the guys in my chapter for their ever growing, it's ongoing, constant desire to do charity work. And it's very cool to see. So this past weekend, we participated in the Relay for Life here in Northern Indiana in LaPorte County. And just a couple of shots here from this guy. And what really makes me happy is that this particular relay, this Relay for Life, has the attendance and the amount of teams that are active in this event has decreased over the years. And I'm not sure, it's probably a number of reasons, but some of these walks are losing teams year to year. People just don't want to do them anymore. They just rather donate money. I'm not sure what it is about. But some of these walks, I know MS Walk has seen fluctuating numbers in different areas as well. Other cancer walks have done the same thing. Other walks all over the place. And even though we're now out of COVID restrictions and everything like that, I think that's also kept some people away. But I just got to give a big shout out to my guys because we were the largest represented team there. We had the most number of people there. And sometimes in these walks, when you have very few people, very few teams there present, it makes other people that are there want to leave early. And some of the teams just pack up because they figure they've already donated their money. What the heck? But I got to give a shout out to my guys, man. They stuck it out. Some of these guys driving a couple hours, 2 hours to get to the event site where we were at, and stayed almost. We were there from the event ran from basically 10 to 10. It used to be an overnight event, but they changed it. So all day out in the sun. It wasn't super hot, but just a big shout out to my guys for sticking it out and for having such great positive attitudes throughout the day, representing our chapter and representing BV as a whole. It's fun to answer questions to people that don't know who we are, what we are there for, and what we represent, and that's always fun. So shout out to the guys from my chapter. Awesome stuff. And that's the chapter news that I've got so far. Okay, guys. So we are going to get into the topic of the night. What I want to do real quick, just a couple minutes, is I want to do a quick review of some of the key points from last week, just so we kind of get in the right mindset and make sure that, because what I did find is that these three topics, specific topics that I want to talk about tonight, blend in very well with actually some of the topics we've already discussed. What's funny is that, as I said, I kind of nailed down kind of 8 highlighted key points based off the comments that I received from all the different guys all over the world talking about burnout and what has caused burnout for them, or what could cause burnout that they feel in the future. And so we're going to be talking about the final 3 points tonight. But it's interesting how these things all weave together, and one can lead to another very easily. So we got to pay attention. And what I would hope to say, what I would hope to see, because I'm going to say, what I would hope to see is that everybody that's listening to this now live or in a podcast platform later, please keep an open mind and respect, as I said last week, respect the words of other people, because these are very real feelings. These are very real emotions and situations that our guys are going through. So we need to pay really close attention to that. So the first thing that we talked about last week was poor leadership. We talked about the guys that, as a leader, kind of treat things as my way or the highway, and they have everything's egocentric. It's all focused on their own ego and the way they're going to be looked at, and they don't want to listen to other people. So we touched on that and how detrimental that can be. We also touched on the fact that longer doesn't necessarily mean wiser. Just because somebody's been a bearded villain for 5, 6, 7 years doesn't necessarily make them wiser. We're not talking about, that you have to go to school to be a bearded villain, right? You come into this club as a bearded villain. You come into this club with all the different life experience that you bring in with it. And it's such a vast and varied life experience that all of our guys come into BV with. So guys can come in to BV with a very, very widely acclaimed leadership skill set that they don't get a chance to show. Why? Because they're looked at as, oh, you just been here for a little bit. Well, let's stop that right now. Remember, longer does not mean wiser. Longer does not mean wiser. Then we also talked about no follow-through as far as the poor leadership goes, that leaders in the chapter have to follow through on what they say they're going to do and what they say they're going to represent. And all of those things together really, really shows these guys that are looking up to you for leadership. It can show very poor leadership and lead to this burnout. We talked about lack of communication and how important that is. Who makes the decisions and how? Who makes the decisions in your chapter and how are they made? Do the regular chapter members have a vote? Do they have some sort of voice in what happens? Or is it simply just going back to the my way or the highway thing? Or is it just the captains that decide, just the captain that decides? Something to pay attention to when you're stepping into a leadership role. Lack of communication is terrible. There should never be a situation, we talked about this last week, there should never be a situation where a guy in BV does not know who to talk to about something when they have a question and does not know who makes decisions or how decisions are made within the chapter. You should never be made to put into that position. And that means if you're a supporter, if you're a hopeful, if you're a villain that's been in for 6 years, you should never know and have those. You should never not know those answers. Having a voice, we also talked about, and everyone's voice needs to be heard. And here's the key: and respected. Everybody has to be heard. Everybody has a voice, and whether you agree with it or disagree with it, everybody's voice needs to be heard, and it needs to be respected. You're going to differ. You're going to have, there's going to be arguments, but hopefully arguments are going to lead to good conversations where you can agree to disagree and you can respect each other's opinions as men and move forward with it. Poor participation, we talked about. Poor participation is, it's such a varied thing. It's such a varied thing. And, we talked about reasons for why, officers might show poor participation and why guys that are the rank and file guys within the chapter might show poor participation. The key there that we talked about was you have to show guys support. You have to show guys that they're needed and remind them that this is a bigger picture thing. And we did talk about the fact that you have to want to do it though. If a guy just has no interest in doing it, then what are they there for? But at the same time, they can lose that want if they're not given proper support. And so it's very important for the leadership to show proper support for those guys. And then we talked about the development of cliques and how that can make brothers feel left out. It's very important that our guys there's going to be cliques that happen inevitably. That happens. They're what you call cliques. But I would rather it be thought of as there's going to be guys that you're closer to, and you're going to do stuff maybe with those guys. But how cool would it be if all you do is you reach out to everybody and say, hey, we're going to get together. I want to get together and go here for dinner or go to a race. And it doesn't have to be a charity thing. It doesn't have to be anything specific to the chapter. But just throw it out there and open it up for other people to attend, to be with. It'll help in that reduction of that feeling of cliques. So that's our review for last week. Now we're going to get into the 3 other topics tonight. We're going to get into the talk of fake and dishonest brothers. This was a very, very touchy one. Very touchy one. Feelings of abandonment and how guys come up with these, or how feelings of abandonment are created. And then the possibility or the very good likelihood that somebody's going to lose one's purpose within BV. Maybe not so much their own purpose in life, but their purpose. What is their role? What is their purpose within BV? Sometimes it can be difficult for them to see that. So I'm going to scroll through real quick here and see. I know we've had a lot of conversation here live in the in our comments section here. Good, somebody has Jesse has a good comment here live. I'll put it up on the screen. Return the chapter back to members. Captains are there only for guidance. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I do not feel that the chapters are the property of the captains. And I think that is honestly a problem that some captains deal with internally. They have created a situation where it's their chapter. It's their chapter. And no, it's not. You don't, as a captain, you don't own that chapter. It's not your chapter. As a matter of fact, you work for the chapter, for the guys. If anything, it's their chapter and you're just working for them. At least that's the mindset that you should have, I believe, if you're going to be, if you're going to be successful. You can't think of it as my way or the highway. It goes back to that. The captains are there to work for the chapter. Absolutely. So let's move on here as we go through this. And the first thing I want to do is I want to give a quote. Now, there's a couple quotes that I'm going to go through tonight that were given to me as just standard comments, part of comments that I've received either this week or last week, talking about some specific answers as it goes to burnout within the chapter. I'm not going to give anybody anybody names of the people that I'm quoting, but some of these just kind of stood out for me, and I wanted to make sure I use these words to get them out for people to hear. So one brother sent me a message when we're talking about participation. It kind of falls into a lot of these different categories, and he said, I joined this organization because I saw the good things that was being done for my city. I saw how hard they worked to put a charity event together to raise awareness for a cause. I saw the bond that I haven't seen since I left the service, the sense of camaraderie amongst regular dudes. That's huge. I think there's a lot in that comment, right? Because he talks about, in this comment, he talks about a sense of pride in what they're doing for the community, representing their community. He talks about a sense of camaraderie. So many of our brothers have served in the military or in law enforcement or some other service, fire or EMS, some kind of service for the people. And so many of our brothers that have had that, they have lost that connection, that feeling until they come back into BV. And what they see in BV is a hope that they're going to have that, as he said, with regular dudes, right? It's not life and death, but you're going to try to have that connection. And so that kind of rolls pretty easily into talking about the fake and the potential for fake and dishonest brothers. But before I get into that topic specifically, I want to review something that I think is really important. And I think it needs to be talked about for a second because it flows right into this. Now, this is something that we all know. We've heard it a million times. We've read it a million times. Very few guys probably have it memorized. So I'm just going to read it so everybody knows and can think about it here on this podcast. But let's review what BV is in a nutshell. We are a brotherhood of elite bearded men from all over the world dedicated to the beard, charity, family, respect, and loyalty. Right? Now, what's even more touching, and I read back to this And I think about this, the mission statement. I think about the mission statement when I think back to the comments that guys have provided me with talking about this burnout. To unite bearded men of all cultures, races, creed, and sexuality in a brotherhood devoted to loyalty, honor, and respect toward all people, dedicated to the betterment of mankind through fraternity, charity, and kindness. We're going to talk about that again in just a few minutes. But there's a lot packed into that mission statement. There's a lot packed into it. And too often, I think some of our guys forget about a few of those. You know, if this is the mission statement for what BV stands for, you can't just be about 80% of it. You can't just be about 70% of it, right? You need to believe in that mission statement if you want to be a part of Bearded Villains, whether you're a part of a chapter or not. It's what you found BV for. And so we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to come back to that, roundabout back into it. So when I'm talking about this idea of fake and dishonest brothers, as I said, it's a very touchy thing. And when I posed the question, I was I posed a couple different questions this past week, but when you start talking about, because it's easy, as I found that it's very easy for people to just say fake and dishonest brothers and just mention it that way. It just kind of rolls off the tongue. It's just blah, blah, blah. But what does that really mean? Does it just mean untrustworthy? Does it mean that they don't have your back? Does it mean that, you know, through thick and thin, no matter what you do, they need to have your back? Really? Is that what it is? Is it that they simply don't talk behind your back? Is it that, see, there's a whole variety of different things that come into this idea of fake and dishonest brothers. I don't think that most people, when they refer to this topic, this idea of fake and dishonest brothers, I don't think they mean thievery. I don't think that they mean that they're a thief when you're talking about that. But I mean, I guess that could be the case. I just never had anybody specifically mention that in the last 2 weeks, that, you know, somebody's stealing from you in that regard. But the dishonesty about how somebody's being backed up or supporting somebody when they said they would, I can see that. And that's kind of where it led to this conversation, this idea of this. So earlier this week, I put out a question saying in the IG universe, I said, if a brother disagrees with you or your actions, would you rather him call you out on it or just go along and support you even if he feels it's wrong? And the reason I asked this was because some of the questions I was getting or some of the responses I was getting were kind of hinting at, you know, they should have your back. They should have your back. They should have your back. Well, under what circumstances is that happening? Under what circumstances do you expect somebody to have your back? If you are in the wrong, if you're doing something potentially morally wrong, if you're doing something potentially ethically wrong, if you're doing something that goes against the brotherhood and or the mission statement, if you're doing something that goes against what the chapter stands for, should they really just have your back and support you just because they're a brother? Or should they call you out on that? And that's where I went. That's the question, kind of where I went with it. And I'm going to tell you what, guys, thankfully, 100% of the responses I got to that question, every single one of you said, call me out on it. Call me out on it. Now, here's the thing. Call you out on it is 100%, and I completely agree with that. But let's do this. Let's do it respectfully, first and foremost, and do it one-to-one. Do it one-to-one. A handful of people specified, yes, call me out on it, but we need to talk one-to-one. Let's not do this whole thing where we're going to jump into a huge chat room and make a one-to-one, make a huge argument that needs to be one-to-one in front of everybody else. Do it privately, not publicly. Be man enough to have that difficult conversation, the one-to-one conversation, recognizing that you may not agree. You can walk away, agree to disagree, but you're going to have that difficult conversation to say, I don't agree with you, and don't ask me to stand up and say I agree with you when I think you're wrong. Here's why. And if that doesn't help, if you can't have that one-to-one conversation, maybe have a one-to-one conversation and bring in an officer if need be, or a third party to be a moderator that you can agree to that will be an unbiased person. Sometimes that's not always easy. But by doing this approaching somebody and calling somebody out publicly, it can create this huge divide. And then what happens? People have to take sides. And then it's these guys against these guys, and it becomes this huge issue. You can't do that to yourself, and you can't do that to everybody else. You can't do that to your chapter. Honestly, guys, that's how some chapters have split. That is how some chapters have created such a divide that they ended up splitting because of a one-to-one issue that became public, and the next thing you know, people took sides. I mean, what you're killing the chapter potentially by a one-to-one argument. So when you're talking about this fake and dishonest stuff, keep it in mind that I don't want somebody to support me or have my back if I'm wrong and they don't believe in it. And they don't, just because you should have my back, you should have my back. Well, what if you're wrong? What if what you're doing isn't right? I mean, what are you supposed to do? You don't, like I said, you don't have to agree with everybody else's point of view to have these great conversations. And I say great because you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something about yourself. You're going to learn something about the other person. These are great conversations. By listening to others, respecting other people's opinions, whether you agree with it, respect that they have a voice, that they have an opinion, and they're willing to voice it. Respect the fact that they're willing to man up and be a man enough to say, I want to talk to you about this. Because not everybody does. So let's respect that. Respect the person's voice, respect their opinion, the fact that they're willing to talk about it. Having these conversations is how we grow as men. You can't just sit idly by in your own justification for your own thoughts of the world and end up, you're just going to whittle away to your own nothingness for the rest of your life. You'll never grow. So when you're thinking about the fake, the dishonesty of the potential dishonest brothers, make sure that we're having those difficult conversations. Make sure that we're having those difficult conversations. Great comment here from Mr. Block. Less talking, more listening. Yes, absolutely. There is a difference, folks. I assume by now in life, now I mean, it's easy for me to say, but early on, I don't remember if it was high school or if it was college, you take a class or two in different things, psychology or whatever it is, or who knows what class it is, or maybe it's just you hear it from the parents. But there's a difference between hearing and listening. There's a difference between hearing and listening. And if you're doing neither, then you're doing it wrong. Don't feel that it's your job. This is a huge point right here. I'm trying to think of how I can delicately say this, but keep in mind that when you're having this conversation with somebody, It's not your job to change their opinion. It's not your job to change their viewpoint and make it yours. In a conversation like that, your job is to listen to theirs. It's not to shout louder, longer, harder, or anything. Your job in those conversations is to listen, to hear what they say. Don't come in with your guns ablazing, already cocked and locked, ready to go. Have you ever had that conversation with somebody? I love doing this. This is one of my favorite, and I do this because I say this because it's one of my favorite listening skills for myself. And if you've ever done this, if you've never done this, I encourage you, the next time you sit down with somebody, just to have a great conversation with somebody, sitting around a campfire, whatever it is. Have you ever been in one of those conversations where, or if you sat around in a conversation listening to other people talk, and you're talking about different viewpoints and different things, you've been in that situation where just the second one guy finishes his sentence, the one guy finishes his thought, another guy's jumping in immediately. As soon as somebody says, well, that's what I think. Well, you know what? Somebody else jumps in. That is not hearing. That is simply listening. Give yourself a second or two to listen and hear what somebody else is saying. Don't come in with your own preconceived notions or your own thoughts so that as somebody's finishing their own thought, their own sentence, you're ready to just jump and give your opinion back. Because what that shows you and shows everybody else is that you're not listening and hearing them. You might be listening so that you know when they're stopped talking. All you're listening for is for when they can stop talking so that you can jump right back in and give your opinion. That's not hearing somebody. Because that entire time that they're trying to get a point across to you and they're talking to you, you're already working in your head. You're already formulating your own idea as to how you want to rebut them. We need to do a much better job in those circumstances of listening and hearing what somebody says. You shouldn't be in that situation where the second somebody finishes a sentence, you're jumping on with your thought to rebut them or to point out, something else. That shows you're just not listening and hearing them. So when we have those good, difficult conversations, think about that. Sometimes a mind can be changed. One of our brothers left this comment with me. Sometimes a mind can be changed with the introduction of a new perspective. And that's very true. I'm 48 years old, boys and girls, but you know what? There's been countless times. One of the greatest things I love about the men in Bearded Villains, there have been countless times where I have sat down and talked to somebody and learned something about life, something about that other person, that other brother's life, the way he grew up, the life experiences that he's had and how they differ from my life experiences. Sometimes, right? A mind can be changed with the introduction of a new perspective. It's true. But it all comes back to listening and hearing what somebody says. It's when another brother said, it's when folks start to think that theirs is the only opinion that matters that problems can develop. I love that one. One of our brothers said, it's when folks start to think that theirs is the only opinion that matters that problems can develop. Well, that's very true. Very true. So from how I have seen things, guys, and this is just the conversations that I've seen, the conversations I've been a part of, the word of mouth, and then also the comments that you guys have sent me, it sounds to me like more often than not, these issues arise when you're talking about these polarizing topics that people are very seriously internally invested in. And when you start talking about politics, when you start talking about race relations, when you start talking about everything, you can name these topics that you know what they are, that people are very, very passionate about. Just keep in mind, those conversations are great to have if both parties are willing to have an actual conversation and not a shouting match about how the other person's wrong. But these are the things that become so polarizing that they can destroy parts of the brotherhood. So when you're having these kind of conversations, my recommendation, my feeling would be that they need to be separate in your own mind from what BV is, right? If it's that polarizing of an issue, because you don't want it to blow up a brotherhood. You can still have those great conversations. You can still have those great conversations. But when you're doing so, you need to keep in mind the importance of the mission statement, right? Go back to that mission statement. Make sure that you're not going against that. As I said, we are all grown men, and we come from different walks of life, just with an abundance of different life experiences. How cool would it be if, instead of being critical of our brothers, hating on them for their different beliefs, if instead we just supported each other? Not that you're always going to agree, as I said, with them, but if you put your ego aside and you engage in those difficult conversations, think about how incredible things can be and how close you'll become with brothers that you never thought you could, out of a mutual respect. Goes back to what I said before, people need to have a respected voice. Next up, I had the topic of feelings of abandonment. One of the things that's come up in conversation is that guys feel that sometimes that they're not supported in the fights that they have. When I say fights, in the things that are passionate to them, that they're passionate about, especially if they go against the very principles that we stand for in the mission statement. We need to be careful, especially as leaders, whether you are a designated leader or just a natural leader within your chapter, to support guys' desires and missions, their own personal mission to do good, to do things, to stand up for what they know is right. You may not feel so passionate about it as they do, but you need to respect it and not put it down. You need to respect the other people's drive. Somebody may be very passionate about this organization or this project or whatever this charity endeavor is, but it may not matter so much to you, and that's fine. But to say that it matters less, it can give guys a feeling of abandonment. What am I here for? I was surprised to hear this from a few people, and what's great about this again, as I've said before, guys, this podcast is as much my podcast or your podcast as it is mine, right? I would not be here if it were not for you, the membership, the brothers of BV. Otherwise, I'd just be talking into a mic about a bunch of nonsense, which I would probably end up doing. I don't know. But I love the fact that I had guys reach out to me that have been in 7 years, and I had guys reach out to me with answers to these questions I've been asking for the last couple weeks. I had some guys that are within 2 months of starting their BV journey. And the sad thing is that they've already witnessed themselves firsthand some of these problems, some of the obvious burnout things with guys within their chapter. And after last week's episode, I had some people reach out to me that had been in less than a year that said that they've already experienced personally some of the things we talked about. It's very important. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody, I will not tell anybody how to run your chapter. That's not my job. Each chapter is run its own way. You have your own set of bylaws, your own set of rules, your own set of people doing things, and that's great. I'm never going to slam another chapter for the way that they're being run. I might be kind of like, well, that's interesting. But we all have our different ways, right? But the one thing that I will say, and I have seen this and it bothered me, is these new guys, whether you call them supporters, whatever you call them, and then they become hopefuls, these guys coming in, the new guys, as you'd call them, or whatever else, some of them are disconnected, and their voices are being ignored. Now, I understand that there is a certain thing to it where, you have to, you can't just walk in the door as a supporter or a hopeful and confidently express your voice as far as what you know about or how things should be run within BV. That is completely understandable. And I completely agree with that. But Bearded Villains is a singular thing. It's an entity, right? It's a brotherhood. These guys, I got to thinking about this, and this was in my head. This is one of those mic drop moments for me when I thought about it and how practical this is to what we're talking about, and how this very topic, when you're dealing with the new guys, how this very thing can lead to burnout very quickly with some good guys. So hear me, please, on these words. These guys that come in, these supporters, these hopefuls, please remember that these men are new to BV. They are new to Bearded Villains, but they are not new to life. They are not new to life. They're new to Bearded Villains. They're new to the brotherhood that is the Bearded Villains. But that does not mean that their life experiences can't benefit this chapter. It doesn't mean that their experiences can't benefit the individuals in the chapter. Yes, there's a get to know period, and these guys have to show that they want to be loyal to the mission and everything else. That's fine and well. But to treat these guys less than, to make them feel outed or unequal just because they're new, you guys know as well as I do, those first few moments, that first meeting that you go to, the first gathering that you go to as a new, whether you were considered to be a prospect or a supporter or hopeful, whatever your beginning stages of BV were, it's like that first day of school in elementary school. You're the new kid in school. And you have those moments of trepidation. You have those moments where it's just like, kind of dipping your foot in the pool, right? And no matter how much pride you have, in yourself, there's those moments in the beginning where you're trying to get to know people. There's that uneasiness, that nervousness with that. If you're immediately treated like you're less than and you're not welcomed into the group with open arms, and people aren't eager to listen to you and hear about your life and learn from you, where's your mind to go? What are you to think about these men These men, this organization, this brotherhood that you've heard so much about that you wanted to join. What are you supposed to think? If you're treated like a pledge in the old fraternity days, if you're treated less than anybody else, it's one of the pledges that I made early on. When we first started this chapter, I said that the new guys that come in are going to be welcomed in with open arms until or unless they show that they're not worthy of that. And thankfully, that's not happening. But you can't treat the guys these are the future of bearded villains. These guys that are coming in, these are the future of bearded villains. So you need to show them and lead by example. Remember, they're new to bearded villains. They're not new to life. And sad to say, you need to realize this, there's a good chance they may know more about leadership than you. That's a true statement. They may know more about leadership, about how to lead people, about how to organize things. They may know more than you. The only thing you have over them is what? Time in the brotherhood. So, keep that in mind. I urge you guys, captains that are out there right now listening, prospective future captains that are out there listening, anybody else that wants to or is a natural leader within BV. If you see this, please stop it from happening. Don't let your leaders in your chapters treat these new guys like they're less than. These are the guys that are going to be the future of BV. They're new to BV, not new to life, and they have something to offer. They have something to offer. One of the guys sent me a quote or sent me a comment in some of his statements to me. He said, this is somebody who just found the podcast for the first time, and it just so happened to be this last one. He says, yo, bro, I just tuned in for my first podcast, and episode 1 of BV Burnout was amazing. Hell of a job, bro. A lot of dudes in my chapter have been discussing every single subject you called out lately. It's very real. These things are going on, and we need to talk about them. So let's get in real quick to, we've got our last category, which is losing one's purpose. And I had a few guys talk about the fact that they felt like they were losing purpose within BV. It's of course not that they're losing their own purpose, but when you identify yourself as a villain and you want to contribute, if you're constantly pushed away or told that your opinion doesn't matter, you can start to lose that purpose for why am I here? Why am I even here within BV then? When guys don't feel like they're supported, they can lose that sense of purpose. They ask, why should I continue to be a part of something that makes it even harder to do the things that I want? So when I'm referring to this is, I've had a few conversations, and I touched on this very little bit last week, but if you have brothers, if you're a leader within your chapter or a prospective leader in the future, think about this. If you have brothers within your chapter that want to do charity works, and you tell them that you don't think they should, or we are not going to, we meaning the chapter, are not going to do that, and you tell them that, no, you should, you want to do it on your own. That's fine, but not part of BV or whatever else, not part of our chapter or whatever it is, not with our name or whatever behind it. What are you doing? What are you doing? If there's a charity that somebody wants to help out with, an organization that somebody wants to help benefit, and they want to do that because it's personal to them, why is it so hard to say, yeah, go for it? And if you want to grab a couple of the other guys that are able to, we can't get behind it fully as a chapter, but we can't make it a mandatory event or something like that. That's all fine and well. But like we said last week, why is it so hard to just say, hey, throw it in chat and see if anybody else wants to go with you? You might have 3 or 4 guys that'll be like, never done that before. Let's do it. Let's try it. Sure. And then members of this chapter participated in XYZ event. You don't have to be the ones that organize it. Somebody else can do all the legwork for you. And just like if you were a business that's attending this event or helping out with this event, or just a regular old citizen family that wants to go, you're just a family of bearded villains that want to go. You don't have to have any kind of organization to it at all. It can just be their thing. You can just go. Listen to their rules, listen to what they want you to do. You do it, you call it a day. But why should a guy stay in Bearded Villains if he feels like he's not being supported in what he wants to do? He's not going to hear yes all the time. He come up with a new charity thing every other week. But why would a guy that wants to do something in his personal life or wants to do something, why would he stay in an organization that makes it harder for him to want to do these things anyway? Help those that want to help others. Help those that want to help others and want to change lives for the better. I've had a lot of great responses, guys, from brothers that, show a frustration for a lack of support from people in leadership roles regarding their desire to participate in these charitable endeavors. And it bugs the hell out of me when I hear that guys are being told, no, we're not gonna do that. You want to do it, go ahead. I just don't understand that logic. So maybe that's just my personal belief. I don't know, but I don't agree with it. We need to let these guys do what they want to do. If it's not going against the bylaws, if it's not going against the mission statement of what BV's about, then what are you doing to them? My message to captains in this topic is this: please support any brother who is trying to make the world a better place. Do not place your ego or your feelings of ego for the chapter ahead of those. Do not place your feelings of a need to control an event, or the fact that you feel like your chapter needs to have some say in an event. Don't let those factors be involved. If you have a brother that wants to do something to help make other people, make their lives better, please support that. Please support that. So, guys, in closing, I want to review this again. Our mission statement: to unite bearded men of all cultures, races, creed, and sexuality in a brotherhood devoted to loyalty, honor, and respect toward all people, dedicated to the betterment of mankind through fraternity, charity, and kindness. if we are not supporting our brothers, no matter how much time they've come in with, no matter how new they are, respect toward all people. Because what? We're dedicated. We're dedicated to what? The betterment of mankind through fraternity, charity, and kindness. Respect all people. The words are there. The words are there, guys. I agree with that statement there. One of our bros live in the live stream says, there's a key word there, unite. Yeah. There's a bunch of keywords in there, but unite's a great one. We come from such varying backgrounds in life. We come from places all over the world. We come together to this brotherhood at varying points in our lives. There are guys that find bearded villains and they're barely 20 years old. They're in their 20s. There are those of us that have kids that are that age. There are those of us who found bearded villains later in life in their 40s, like myself. And still there are guys who have lived a very long life of major experiences that maybe you can't even fathom. They might be in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're finding bearded villains for the first time. And they see that mission statement. And they say, I love what it stands for. Because this seems to be a place, the bearded villains seems to be a place that unites bearded men of all cultures, races, creed, and sexuality in a brotherhood devoted to loyalty, honor, and respect toward all people, dedicated to the betterment of mankind through fraternity, charity, and kindness. Our brotherhood is vast and varied. And like I said, we come from all walks of life. Take a second to learn from the brothers, learn from their life experiences, and recognize that you don't know it all. No matter if you are a leader in a leadership capacity officially or not. Pay attention to the brothers that are starting to step away. Pay attention to the brothers that are distant. And don't put it all on their shoulders to say they'll come back if they're worthy or they need to come back on their own. There's a reason why they're slowly stepping away. And as has been evidenced to us the last 2 weeks, there's a whole bunch of reasons why guys might feel a burnout and why they might step away. But unless you're willing to set your own ego aside, if you're not willing to have the conversation, if you're not willing to listen and hear their point of view and what is going on with them, you may lose that good guy. And everything that he thought bearded villain stood for, he'll be proven wrong. That's the most disappointing thing about that. We all come in reading that mission statement and believing in it, hopefully. But when these topics, these issues that arise that cause this burnout happen, and there's no support, and no one reaches out, and yeah, you may have to do it more than once, more than twice, because as we talked about, and we know, guys are prideful. Guys don't always want to talk about feelings. Guys don't always want to talk about what they're saying or what they're believing or what's going on. It doesn't mean that they don't have the pride to be able to have that difficult conversation, but sometimes they just need to be poked and prodded a little bit to start talking. So, guys, I just think it's so important for us to have these conversations. Reach out to the people that are starting to show distance. Find out from them what it is that is making them feel like they're not a part of things. And let's work to see if there's a solution there. So guys, thank you so much. I hope that this message has been well received. I hope that you guys out there that are listening to this in some capacity will take these words and somehow use them in a positive way to better yourselves, better BV, better your chapter, and make it a very positive interaction moving forward. And if you guys have any further comments, if you guys have any concerns, obviously I'm going to listen. And I can be a sounding board to you if you want to talk. But I won't have all the answers. And I don't think I'm meant to. Nobody is. Sometimes people just need to listen. Sometimes people just need to talk. Let's be there for each other and do what we can to help remedy these problems. Let's be that brotherhood, the united brotherhood, guys, that stands for those things in that mission statement. If you are looking for an all-natural beard oil that will not only tame your beard and coarse hairs, but make your beard soft and smell amazing, check out Pulpo Beard Oils. Veteran-owned and made for today's beards, Pulpo beard products combine the best beard ingredients on the market with incredible customer service to ensure your happiness. Whether you need beard wash, beard oil, beard balm, or some fun clothing, Pulpo is the place to go. Feel fresh, feel savage, feel confident with Pulpo Beard Oils. Go to Pulpo Beard Oils, that's Pulpo beardoils.com, and use the code The Heart of a Villain for a discount on your order. All right, guys. I want to close this part of the podcast episode out with a comment from the gentleman, the brother, that created the idea for this 2 podcast episode series about BV Burnout. And I'm so thankful to him. I hope everybody else, if you get a chance, reach out to Rob, and thank him for bringing up this topic as a possibility for us to discuss. And I thank all of you guys that have participated in this conversation and kept it going forward. But I just want to bring up a comment that he had here in the live stream where he said, "We are the caretakers. We are to caretake the brotherhood for the next generation. Our actions now decide the strength of the next. Our actions now decide the strength of the next." Sounds like that belongs on a shirt somewhere. I love it. Our actions now decide the strength of the next. Thank you, Rob, for such a great suggestion. And let's get into our calendar of events, guys. We've got a couple of new things that are coming in here. So first up, July 2nd. That's this weekend. Wow, look at that. That's this weekend. Beardedville in Central England has the Cannock Chase Visitors Center Family Meet. That's a big, long title. Cannock, is it Cannock? Cannock? I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I've never had to say that word the way that's written. And it's not like Canuck, like in Canada. Anyway, Cannock Chase Visitors Center Family Meet, July 2nd. Hit up the Beardedville in Central England for all the details on that. I couldn't quite make out on the flyer which was the city, the location, and all that stuff for it. But hey, if you're Central England area and you want to do that, go to it. Hit them up this weekend, this Saturday. Next weekend, July 8th through the 10th, is Beards for Bucko. Beards for Bucko. It's in Fort Erie, hosted by the Bearded Villains Toronto, OSW, and Lakeshore chapters. It's going to be an awesome time. I can't wait to see everybody up there. My first technical international meet. It's going to be a blast. Beards for Bucko, July 8th through the 10th. July 9th is Ram Fest. Hosted by the Blackshire Villains. This one-day event they hope for this thing to be huge. It's the Blackshire Villains' first multi-chapter meet that they've tackled themselves, I think, from what I've seen, and looks to be pretty cool. They have limited number of tickets. If you don't already have your tickets, do it quickly because, well, they only have like 150, I think, tickets available, period. So, Ramfest, July 9th. July 15th through the 17th, Bearded Villains Brazil has their annual meeting. It's like an anniversary thing. To be honest, I couldn't make out all that was in the flyer for it because 99% of it was in Spanish and I couldn't even translate it. So sorry for that, but if you want to go to Brazil and you want to go to their annual meeting, it's going to be a fun weekend event. 15th through the 17th of July. Hit them up and go have some fun, man. Looks like it'd be hey, with all the sponsorships that are listed on there, everything that's going, it looks like a really fun event. So I can't go, but maybe you can. July 15th through the 17th. July 16th, that same weekend, is Beards and Brews, hosted by the ENC boys. ENC, it's the ENC 5-year anniversary party. July 16th, Beards and Brews. Then July 22nd and 23rd. July 22nd and 23rd is the Dog Days of Summer. The Dog Days, D-A-W-G. Dog Days of Summer, hosted by the North Georgia Bearded Villains. There's a meet and greet on the 22nd, beard competition on the 23rd. Be a good time. I think it's for veterans charities. Awesome stuff. Dog Days of Summer, July 22nd and 23rd. Then July 31st, rounding out July, the Kingsbury Family Meet. Kingsbury Family Meet, also hosted by the Bearded Villains of Central England. Boy, these guys have a busy July. They are bookending our July with 2 different meets with Bearded Villains Central England. Very cool stuff. Then we jump into the month of August. And we know what month of August is good for this year. It's the World Meet. That's right, the World Meet in Chicago. BVC is your host. The Bearded Villains Chicago boys have an incredible weekend planned for us. I don't even know all the details because they're keeping some stuff hush-hush, which I kind of like. I like the mystery of it. But hey, if you're not already planning for it, you need to get there. This may be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, World Meet that we've had. It's centrally located, so a lot of people are coming. August 5th through the 7th, World Meet in Chicago. Then into September we go. September 9th through the 11th, we have 2 different events. First up is Battle of the Beards. Battle of the Beards 2022, hosted by the Southern Indiana Villains in Evansville, Indiana. They got a meet and greet on the 9th, a beard competition on the 10th at the VFW Post 1114 in Evansville, Indiana. There's a beard competition that has 10 judged categories and a raffle and an auction. That same weekend is the Four Corners Meet. The Four Corners Meet in Cortez, Colorado, September 9th through the 11th. The Four Corners Meet, remember, is for brothers only, so don't be bringing anybody that's not a brother because they will shut you down, kick you out. Actually, I don't know how they're going to handle that, but they'll probably tell you no because it's brothers only. September 9th through 11th, Four Corners Meet, Cortez, Colorado. Then September 23rd to the 25th is the East Coast Meet. The East Coast Meet in Baltimore, Maryland. This one is hosted by the Bearded Villains Southern Maryland chapter, SOMD, and the Chesapeake Bay Bearded Villains. Those two chapters coming together to host the East Coast Meet. The main event is at the power plant. All the reservations and stuff that they're taking care of for hotel stuff is at Hilton Baltimore Inner Harbor. So if you need information on that, hit up either SOMD or Chesapeake Bay Bearded Villains for the September 23rd, 25th East Coast Meet. Then October 16th is the Halloween Bash hosted by the Rocket City Bearded Villains. Don't have any specific details on this guy yet, but I do know that if it's like last year, it was a Halloween themed event with a beard comp and a costume contest. So good times. Rocket City, October 16th. And then the following week up here in northern Indiana, come one, come all, to the return of Ezra Crow. That's right. It is our Halloween themed beard competition and costume contest and so much more. It's going to be a blast. Well, a meet and greet of some sort on Friday, the beard competition on Saturday, and the costume contest all rolled into one. You get to be in your costume all night if you want to. Good stuff planned for it. That raises money and items for the Ronald McDonald houses in northern Indiana. So it's always a great time to do stuff like that. And that is October 22nd. So, guys, that is the calendar of events that I have so far for this year, the rest of this year. Well, at least into October. I haven't gone past the end of October yet. So, hey, if you have something that's not on my calendar, hit me up and let me know so I can get it on the calendar. But guys, hey, you know what this means. What an awesome episode this has been. This is going to wrap up part 2 of BV Burnout and episode 141 of the podcast. It's been a good time, guys. It's been a good time. Remember, you can still buy those shirts, patches, pins, all that good stuff at theheartofavillain.com, or I'm sorry, theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. Theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. That's where you got those shirts, patches, pins, all that good stuff. I want to challenge you, as I always do every week, guys, to be the villain that the world needs you to be, because the heart of a villain never stops beating. The most important words, I say them every week, guys. Please never forget, it's okay not to be okay. If you are hurting, please find a brother to talk to. If you just please do. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. So guys, for now, have a great night. Enjoy this weekend, this holiday weekend, the 4th of July weekend. Be safe. Be safe with those firecrackers. Be safe. And man, I hope to see you here next week. We may have to switch nights. We might be here on Wednesday night. So stay tuned for that. We might be back here on Wednesday night because Thursday I will be up in Canada. I'm going a day early. So, and I don't want to have to try and worry about Wi-Fi and all that other stuff there. So anyway, come back next week, episode 142, where we're going to be talking beards for Bucko. All right, guys, I will see you next week. Take care. Stay safe.
All it takes is 2 mics and 1 line. This is Bearded Villains podcast worldwide, driving cross countries, getting ball.